everyone. Just starting in a moment. We still have stuff we can do. Chill out. Just gonna look at my screen. Yeah, work that up. I'll get to it. If you're watching live, pen and paper are suggested. Art supplies are optional. There's only one art activity. So if you stress about art, don't worry about it. And I'm terrible at art, objectively speaking. Starting at 11:30-ish. Well, 11:30 I'm at that, let's say. Hello, everyone. We'll be starting in just a minute. If you want to find a pen and paper, that may help with these exercises. That's all you need. We might have one drawing bit. If you're really into drawing, you can bring whatever supplies you have, colored pencils. That's only going to be 5 minutes of the thing, so don't let that terrify you. And if a pen is fine or a pencil is fine. And if you don't have a pen or a pencil or you don't want to write things down, you really don't need to. So I'm just going to start again in about a minute. All right. Hello, everyone. So we got a couple of folks here, and I'm delighted that you're here, and I hope people will be tuning in throughout the week or whenever they'd like to. We're going to record this and put this on YouTube. And I'm delighted to be with you. My name's Bob Janice Dillon, and I am co-minister, delighted to serve as co-minister at Merseyside Unitarian Partnership. And each week I put a little something up here online so people can have a time of worship or reflection. And this week we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to have a time of gentle reflection, a time to reflect on ourselves and our lives, and time to think through who we are, what's important to us. I hope it's going to be a fun activity. I think it will. It will for me. I hope it is fun for you. I deliberately, I know I look a little bit scruffy today. I didn't shave in honor because I'm trying to channel Bob Ross. Some of you may know Bob Ross, but he was a wonderful painting instructor, I guess you could say. But he was so gentle, and he let those of us who feel like we have no artistic talent know that perhaps we do. And that he was famous for saying there are no mistakes, only happy little accidents. And he would paint little trees and say, if you made a mistake, don't worry, that's not a mistake. It's just a happy accident. You work with it. He taught us all how to paint. We're not going to do painting today. We may do one drawing thing. So if you have pens or colored pencils or something like that, you can go get them. But otherwise, we'll do some things that I'm asking if you want to jot things down. So if you have a pen and a paper, something to jot things down, that could be good. If you want to just not jot things down, of course, that's up to you. And we're on YouTube. So if you're watching this afterward, you can't do this if you're watching live, unfortunately. But I'm going to go through the exercises and do them for myself as well to give you some time to do them. But if you find a rush too quickly, you can always push pause. If it's too slow, you can fast forward a little bit, I think. So what are we doing this hour? This hour, we're just taking a little time to be with ourselves. Again, invoking that gentle spirit of Bob Ross. And instead of painting, which I still don't know much about, in spite of spending a little time with Bob Ross, what I quite enjoy is spiritual direction and reflection. I'm a trained spiritual director as well as a minister, and I don't get in touch with those tools often enough, but these tools come from the spiritual direction tradition. And my thanks to my teachers from my beloved spiritual directing teachers at Moravian, all the way back to the traditions that go back many centuries. This is spiritual direction is available to everyone. There are religious roots to it, but I'm not going to use a lot of religious language. It's really about getting in touch with ourselves and our spirits, and just getting in touch with kind of who we are. And I think it's all the more important at this time when there's a lot going on in the world, as we know, chance to kind of reflect, breathe in, breathe out. So I imagine this will take about 45 minutes. Again, you'll know better than I because you can look at the thing on the bottom, the thing if you're watching this recording. And if you have a pen and a paper, again, that can be helpful. If you don't worry about it. And this is a chance to get in touch with yourself. So you can take part in these activities or skip them or do whatever you want with them. These are really for your benefit. So if you feel like something is not something that you want to take part in, of course, you don't need to do it. So these are all just suggestions for getting in touch with us, with who we are, taking a moment to reflect and to give us a sense of where we are in the world and what we want to do with this marvelous day and this beautiful world that we live in. So I'll start with a quote from Bob Ross as we light our chalice, which is a symbol of the light of truth and the warmth of love in our Unitarian tradition. You don't need to be Unitarian to be here. Welcome wherever you come from. This is from Bob Ross. Believe that you can do it because you can do it. Believe that you can do it because you can do it. So I've got 12 exercises. Some of them are quite simple. Some of them are a little less simple, perhaps. Again, a lot of them, I invite you to jot your answers down on a pen and paper. Normally in spiritual direction, you might work with a spiritual director, or it's a lot like coaching, which I also have a little bit of training in. You might work with a coach, and I recommend it. It's wonderful to be one-on-one with somebody. Here, of course, it's a little bit different because you can't really have that interaction. You're welcome to interact on the chat if you like. So I would encourage you, if you have a chance for spiritual direction, but you might have to do your own sort of interpreting, and I think you'll find things will come up when you write things down that might stir something in you. That's the hope. Well, let's see together. So we'll start the simplest one. Well, maybe it's not the simplest one. I don't know. It's a question we're asked a lot. How are you? So I invite you to simply write down. You can take that any way you want. It can be a one-word answer. It can be a little bit more. You can go in any direction. How are you? So I don't know what you jotted down there, and we don't have to give the polite answer. We can give whatever answer we want in this sacred space that we create here. Sorry not to hear your answers. I put for me a little tired, excited, ready. And then underneath, I said a little weary of this whole coronavirus thing. I don't know about you, but it's dragging me down a little. All the challenges and all the angst that it raises, and of course all the grief and the woe. And I think we're carrying that individually and collectively. So that was my answer. I don't know what yours was, but that was the first question. How are you? To get in touch with how we are. Second question is another easy one. I hope it's to write down 10 things we're grateful for. Something about starting with gratitude, starting with where we are, which is always, I think, an important question. How are you? But even if you answer that how are you question with weary, downtrodden, which are all perfectly understandable emotions, and I think we should be allowed to have them, or angry, anxious, we can still sometimes, I think, find gratitude. So I invite you to write 10 things that you're grateful for. Now, 10 is a big number. So you may be surprised with what you come up with. And they don't have to be big things. They could be. And as you write, you might find that things come out of left field that you're grateful for. So just without giving it too much thought, we're not going to overthink things. Just write down 10 things. It can be people or things or whatever you like. 10 things that you're grateful for. Okay, I'll give you another minute. If you don't come up with 10, that's okay. I think many of us could come up with 100 if we were given time, couldn't we? And that might be a nice exercise for a rainy morning someday this week. So I'll share my list with you. And again, I'd love to hear your list sometime if you want to call me up or send me an email, bobunitarian@gmail.com. I wrote family, friends, clouds. I was looking outside, but then clouds made me think of Bob Ross. So I wrote Bob Ross because I mentioned him already. The day ahead of me, having a day to come, and not knowing what's going to come. There's something exciting about that. I wrote cup of coffee. You're welcome to get coffee and snacks, and it can be good for inspiration, especially when you're writing things down. Cup of coffee. I wrote the congregations. Love the congregations I serve, and I'm very grateful for them. And yeah. I wrote solid objects because I think there's something about just having solid objects. Sometimes we live in our minds so much, something about the shape of things and being able to feel things. I have a wooden table here. See it. It's just a lovely sensation. You know what I mean? Sometimes just being able to touch something solid is a great blessing in itself. I wrote music, and I don't have any music in this service, but you're welcome to play music in the background. Of course, you might like to as you do this. I decided to choose one, and it shows Journey, which has been on my mind. Maybe it's Don't Stop Believing. I don't know, but grateful for Journey music. And the 10th one, I just wrote inspiration, partly because I came up with a list of 10, so I was grateful that 10 ideas came, but grateful for inspiration in our lives. Wonder what your 10 are, and I think if you ever find yourself in having a rough day, that exercise, it's very, very simple. It's such a good one. Just come up with 10 things that you're grateful for. So we're starting with sort of the general and this general sense of how are we and with gratitude. And I know this might be departing from the spirit of Bob Ross, but I want to acknowledge that people are going through hard times as well. And we all have suffering, and acknowledging suffering is part of. Got to 10 and couldn't stop. Yes, Jane. Well, I think that's wonderful. I sometimes keep going. So welcome. You can keep going throughout this whole hour if you wish. Go where the spirit takes you, I think. And the third one, I almost hate to do this because we're going such an upbeat list, but I want to acknowledge that it's a hard time. The one question I like to ask when we're thinking in general terms is, what is breaking your heart at the moment? Now, you're free to write whatever you want. We're just going to say one thing. We're not going to get too much into the weeds of suffering, but it is important to know where we are. So one thing that's breaking your heart, and obviously it could be related to COVID-19, or it might be something completely different. So I might just to write it down and just to sit with it a moment, just acknowledge that it is. It's not something that we can change instantly, is it? Cynthia Bourgeois writes, to mourn is to touch directly the substance of divine compassion. Say that again from the mystic and teacher Cynthia Bourgeois. To mourn is to touch directly the substance of divine compassion. I invite you to just write down one thing that is breaking your heart. It can be in the world or local, or what's breaking your heart. Yes, we have a comment. The list shows the things we may take for granted, like solid objects. And I find that in my gratitude practice, I notice all the things that I forget about most of the time, and simple things. Sometimes when I'm walking, every 10 steps, try and think of something that I'm grateful for. So I'll count to 10 and then try and think of something. And the things that pop into my mind, sometimes I think are things that I wouldn't normally think of, like my breath or taking in the next 10 steps. When we get into a gratitude practice, I always find it surprising the little things that come up. And life is made up of little things, aren't they? Beautiful little trees. So we turn to what is breaking your heart. And I'd like to lift up Jack, and a lot of us in the Ashton Makerfield community are holding in our hearts Jack, a young lad who was just walking on the side of on the sidewalk on the pavement, and was the victim of a terrible hit and run and died. So we hold Jack and his family in our thoughts and prayers. And you may have written something very different, by suffering is suffering. So let's take a moment just to hold these things. And again, with Cynthia Bourgeois, we say to mourn is to touch directly the substance of divine compassion. Let's be in touch with that compassion. Simply hold the things that are breaking our heart, even if we can't fix them. Just acknowledge that they're there in our canvas. Blessed be. So now we're going to go from the general to the kind of spirit, to our personal kind of who we are. And I've thought of a quote by Parker Palmer, the great educator and spiritual teacher, who writes, "The soul is like a wild animal, tough, resilient, savvy, self-sufficient, and yet exceedingly shy. Soul is like a wild animal, exceedingly shy." If we want to see a wild animal, the last thing we should do is go crashing through the woods, shouting for the creature to come out. But if we are willing to walk quietly into the woods and sit silently for an hour or two at the base of a tree, the creature we are waiting for may well emerge. And out of the corner of an eye, we will catch a glimpse of the precious wildness we seek. So some of these next exercises are trying to kind of allow that wild animal of our own soul to come forth, to really get in touch with who are we, how are we, where are we right now? What is our soul saying to us? If we just rush and crash about, we probably won't find, but if we take the time, sometimes something will emerge. So we'll see what emerges for you. We'll start with the self. I thought we would do poetry exercise. Now I know people can be very frightened of poetry, and I'm doing what I think is very, hopefully, simple poetry. And if nothing happens, it doesn't happen. But I love poetry. If you ever want me to learn how to do a sonnet with me, ask me, because I love that. But we're going to do something even much simpler than that sonnet, which is just a name poem. So I invite you to write a name. It could be your own name, or you could choose a different name if you want. So it's Robert, which is my full name because Bob's a bit short. I usually go by Bob. And I invite you to think of a word that sort of may speak to yourself. It can speak to a characteristic of yourself, or speak to how you're feeling. And there's no wrong answers. Again, no mistakes, just happy accidents. So whatever comes to mind. It doesn't have to be one word. It can be a phrase. You can write a sentence. You can put it in rhyming couplets if you're really advanced at poetry. But really, it can just be a word. So I invite you to write down we write down the letters here. This is called an acrostic poem, as you English majors will know, and the rest of us are learning. So just write a name down there, your name, or it could be a name of someone else if you want to write about someone you love. And then just for each one, so I'm going to think of an R for Robert. I'm going to write reading because I do love to read. It's a pleasure of mine. Oh, what comes up is a strange one. I didn't expect this to come up. I haven't planned this. I'm going to put obedient to God, which I know sounds really, really dogmatic, especially coming from a fairly non-dogmatic tradition. And I know we have believers in God and non-believers, and we have different language for the divine, and all of that is beautiful, I think. But for me, it means following the Spirit, which often includes the creative spirit. I'm going to use the phrase big up. So I'm both big, but also lifting my own spirits, big up, and I think I lift other people's spirits. And again, so I'll do my own, and I'll do these silently, so you have some time to do yours. You may be doing it already, but I invite you to take a minute, just go down, whatever comes to mind. As you can see, it doesn't have to be, it can be an adjective to describe you, but it can be something else entirely. I'll go ahead and share mine, but if you need to pause this, do pause and take a little more time. There's no need to rush. There really isn't. It's supposed to be reflection. It's supposed to be a chance to get in touch with ourselves. You can even pause it, go away, and come back to it another day. There's no need to rush. But I put, as I said, reading, because I like reading, obedient to the Spirit, whatever that may mean, following the Spirit, big up, easily amused, which I think is true for me, reactive to others, and I mean not in a negative sense, but I like to think that I'm compassionate to others. And then T, I wasn't sure what to put. I put thoroughly present, which isn't always true, but I like to think I can be present, sometimes completely present. So that phrase. And again, would love to know what you had written, which you could put in the chat, and we from Frank Sinatra, we say we have. I'm going to write a poem about rain outside. It's raining outside. Oh, it's here it's cloudy and not rainy. So it's funny, a little bit of sunshine peeking out through the clouds. So I'd love to hear a poem about rain, and I do love rain. So blessings on the rain, and blessings to you. So the next question is a similar question about yourself, and I invite you to jot down 2 or 3 things. This time it's not a poem, but it's a question, and I ask this question when I do one-on-one spiritual direction. I think I find it a good question. I hope it is for you. Is what makes you come alive? Now, come alive, what does that mean? I invite you to sort of interpret that for yourself. Come alive can be quite active, but it can also be quite reflective. You can feel quite peaceful and tranquil when you're fully alive. So what it means to be fully alive is really in the eye and the heart of the beholder. So it's up to you to decide what that means. But again, the question is, what makes you fully alive? What sorts of activities? What sorts of way of being in the world? There are lots of different ways to take this question, but I invite you to have a go at it and to write down, jot down, whatever comes to mind. What makes you fully alive? And again, there's no wrong answers. Whatever you write down can be a pathway to insight. So just jot down whatever it is. What makes you fully alive? That is a beautiful poem. The rain is. Oh, wow. I think people can see in the comments. Frank Sinatra wrote a poem about the rain, which is just wonderful. Deafening chaos, a fragmented mind could remarry. That is stunning. So I invite you to read it. Yeah. Oh. Makes me feel a whole like peace and serenity when rain is present in the world. I always feel a sense of peace with the rain. I'm not wishing the rain at the moment because there's a lovely bit of sunshine as well, but there is. I am grateful when the rain is here most of the time. So I don't know what people wrote for that. I wrote what makes you come alive. I wrote reflection, peacefulness, but also a sense of flow. Having a rhythm to life, having meaningful work is helpful, having something to do, even if it's organizing the closet. But also taking my time, not rushing about. I find that makes me feel more alive when I there's a rhythm, but I'm not trying to do everything too quickly, which I sometimes do. I said being out in the world, exercise and walking, and I don't think I get enough exercise, even if it's just being out on my back step and people, being around people. And I know we haven't been able to be around people in the same way, many of us, during this time. It's been hard, but still we feel the presence of people close to us. So I don't know what your list was, but I find that's a very important question to keep in mind, to make the most of our lives, is to think, what makes me come alive? And in a long-term sense, but also in a day-to-day, as we plan our daily calendar, being aware of that, I think, is really, really important. I've found for me, and I think I've found that for others as well. So we're on to question 6 now, and this is a question that many people find really difficult. It's not a complicated question, but I like to ask folks, name 5 good qualities about you. We're not used to saying nice things about ourselves, even to ourselves, and you might just be sharing it to yourself. But I'm going to make you ask to put down 5 good qualities about you. So go. That's a wonderful list, Jane. Don't know if you can read the list, but I think we get down. Anyway, that's a wonderful list. So I hope you were able to come up with 5. I know some people find this very challenging, but I think it's important that we're aware. And if you can't, call up a friend. I'm sure they'll have no trouble coming up with 5. Someone that knows you. I put kind-hearted, creative, generous, open-minded, and good at making connections between things and sometimes people, ideas. And so I hope came up with 5. And it's a chance to really reflect, to be generous and gentle to ourselves. And we're not doing justice to the world if we're not, if we're hiding our own gifts, are we? Because we have an opportunity, those 5 qualities, whatever they are, an opportunity to really bring something beautiful to the world. So if we're saying, oh, no, I don't have them, we're actually not, we're doing kind of an injustice to the world, aren't we? Because we have a chance to really share those things. And if we know what they are, it might help us to share them. So the next one I kind of put in there as something that because people find this a lot easier. Just say one thing. We're having a balance again. 5 things. One thing you may want to work on. Now, some people find this hard. Some people find this very easy, and they want to make a list of 10 things. I'm saying just one thing. And again, be gentle with yourself. We're flawed and fragile and beautiful and messy. But what's that? Where's the one thing where and not something that somebody else thinks that you need to work on? Let's throw that out. Let's put that. Doesn't matter. Something that you genuinely would like to kind of work on yourself. Something, and it can be playful or it can be serious, whatever you'd like. Realized when Bob Ross did this, he had this wonderful canvas that was slowly turning into something. And here you just, you've got, this is a building in Liverpool, beautiful building. I didn't draw it, just so we're clear. But it's not quite the same as it. But anyway, maybe you have something in your room that you can look at to make the visual canvas a little more flavorful. So I don't know if people were able to come up with the one thing, or maybe it was very easy to come up with multiple things. But I invite you, I'll say mine was just sitting with things a little longer. I find I've been a bit reactive lately sometimes, and I'm always trying to learn patience. So kind of when things come up, just sitting with them a little longer. So Ricardo and Bob Ross. Well, Bob Ross is the sort of the avatar for this whole thing. I think I've just thought of his energy and his wonderful way of being in the world. So mine was sitting with things a little longer. Yours might be something different, but instead of sort of beating ourselves up with the one thing we want to change, I invite us to just visualize that it is changed. What would it look like if that was changed? If whatever that was thing that you're working on yourself, it doesn't have to be fully changed, but if things were a little bit different, let's just sit a moment with how you'll be and just imagine that it's already happened, or the change has already happened. And what does that feel like? What does that look like? Let's just sit with it and imagine it for a moment. Again, as Bob Ross says, if you believe it, you can do it. And a lot of times, if we imagine a new us, it slowly starts to come into fruition. Where Cynthia Bourgeois writes, all will come of its own accord, in good time and with abundant fullness, so long as one does not attempt to hoard or cling. All will come of its own accord in good time and with abundant fullness, so long as one does not attempt to hoard or cling. The changes we wish for may already be happening in the world. So now the next three ones get more in touch with the spirit, the next three questions, and they're more the creative side of things. And now I know the creative arts can frighten some of us. So I invite you again, it wouldn't be true to Bob Ross if we didn't have it there. I invite you to give it a go. There's no wrong. We're not a talent competition here. We're not trying to do it. We're just seeing what comes out. So the next one is my only drawing activity. And I'm more of a writer. I don't know that many techniques about drawing. I haven't watched all that much drawing or I know more. But the question is one that we've asked before here, which is, how are you? But instead of answering it in words, I invite you just to draw a picture. Now, there's no, or draw anything really. You can draw a scribble or you can draw a picture. It can be a picture thinking about, something that speaks to you. And you may not know with art, you don't have to know. So, so feel free to just, sometimes you can let the tools work. So I might just try a scribble and think, what does this say about how I am? There's something about, there's a flow to this, and I don't even make trees, but I think there's something nice about this pattern for me. And what about the color orange? Maybe because that gentleness, or I need that gentleness. And I might choose another color. Again, if you only have your pen, just use a pen. But if you have some extra things, you can use those, pens or pencils or modeling clay. Now, what I'm thinking about this scribble, and again, never had a formal art lesson, just to let you know this. I'm making these little green things. They almost look like teeth. You can't really see them. But I'm thinking there are some jagged edges to my life at the moment. There are some hard parts with this whole coronavirus thing and everything. So maybe that's where the teeth come from. I don't know. But also they're kind of gentle, and it makes me think on reflection that teeth are very useful. And they give it a sort of, when you look at it, you can't really see the green, can you? Here, put them in a different, and do this. This is for your sake. You don't have to do it for anybody else's sake, but because I'm presenting. So I thought of these green, it's not a representative art piece, but I thought of these green sort of teeth underneath the art. That's some of the jagged edges, but I see they're kind of lovely too. You know, it makes me think, what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect these green teeth. Oh, that's not purple. I wanted purple. Up with the orange somehow. Green orange. Just kind of. There we go. And I think I want to be holistic, collective parts of my life a little more. So I'm going to put this blue. I hope you're doing your own here. Don't pay much attention to me. I'm not teaching any techniques. This is all spiritual direction, not art. So as we make this art, I'll leave you to make yours now, and I'll add a few more details. And again, you don't have to think before you draw. You just draw, and then maybe something comes up, or maybe something doesn't. You know, you might just draw it and say, well, it looks nice. And that's fine. Again, there's no mistakes, remember. This is getting us where we need to go, these happy little accidents. So it's just a chance to let our hands and the art materials lead rather than our kind of critical mind, the mind that's saying, you know, that's dualist mind. We're just kind of gently going into the world of the canvas. Just making a little doodle, a happy little doodle. So we're not, this guy's got like a, I'm thinking of him as a guy now, I don't know, or no particular gender. Got a little backbone, almost like a dinosaur here. Beautiful about that. I think I'm going to give it a little bit of, going to make it turn into, I see it getting smaller here, so I'm going to work on that and make it into something goes off like this. I don't know what this is going to be, but just flow this off into something. And just let your piece go where it wants to go. There's no need to, no wrong answers, there's no wrong way. Don't think too hard about the question. If you don't remember what it is, just draw something. Mine looks a little like a punk TARDIS, which I'm quite happy about, actually. It was not planned. Now, again, you can always pause this, and this is one that can take a beautifully long time without feeling like a long time at all. So if you're getting into it and you're watching this on record, feel free to pause if you need to get some art supplies and take some time. But for the sake of those who are feeling restless, I invite you to take a look at your artwork and just to, first of all, just appreciate it, just to enjoy that it's been made, and to see where it looks, what you like about it. I like the little orange stripes here and the little spine and the whole kind of flow of it. And then you may remember the question was, how are you? And this is a non-linear way of looking at it. Is there anything that it might tell you? And don't force the answer. There's nothing you need to really, just, if anything occurs. As I said, it sort of makes me think there are spiky bits, but the spiky bits to my life are also integrated in a larger whole. And it gives me a sense of calm. Put the little waves underneath the blue. Made me think of the ocean. So it made me think of the peace available to me, I guess you could say. But again, you don't need to come up with any huge big answers. Maybe they'll come, but it may just be really nice drawing. But it's a chance. Sometimes you learn things as you're drawing, and you pick things up about how you are or what life is like. So I invite you to just appreciate your drawing. Give yourself a pat on the back because you've let the creative flow go through you, which is such an incredible thing to do. So kudos. Whatever is on your piece of paper. And if nothing came right now, nothing came. There's nothing wrong with a blank page either. So, well, that might have been a hard one for some. I'm not a trained artist myself. We're going to do something here, and you don't have to take part, but it's called a body prayer. Again, I'm grateful for my teachers. I don't know who first came up with this one, but it's not my own one. And what I'm going to try to do is move this back so you can see me. It's a very simple prayer. It's a bit like yoga, for any of you who've done yoga. It's not actually yoga, but it's sort of looking at how poses can make us aware of ourselves and kind of has a chance to stretch. So again, if you'd like to do it, if not, there's no camera on you. That's how YouTube works. It's just me, so you don't need to worry about it. Allow some space. Probably we all have space these days, 6 feet. So that's good. Shake your limbs out a little bit. And these are a series of poses. Again, I didn't create this. That get us in touch, sort of the flow, the energy, the divine, different aspects of ourselves. So I'll go through it once, and then we're going to go through it 3 times together. Anybody who'd like to take part. And some of you at the congregations may have had this one before. It's best the more you repeat it. So I'm not ashamed to do it again. Or actually may do it again at the end of this hour. So starts with kind of this universal symbol of prayer, of simply being, and it gives us a sense of being grounded. You know, these hands with our feet grounded on the. You can't see my feet, but grounded on the ground here. You can do this one sitting down as well. You don't need to be standing up. So we start with that, and then we sort of gather ourselves up to the all. So we're looking up at the infinite universe. And then from there, we gather everything in. And we cradle it. This is our little cradling pose, holding everything tight. Feeling how wonderful it is to be secure. Have that sense of being held, holding ourselves. And we go the other direction. We bring that energy out to the world. And we can stretch it. We can actually bring this. We can send this energy out all across the globe to our friends on other continents. Send this energy, stretch it this way and that. And we're being really bold here, stretching ourselves out, sending everything forth. And then we go down, hands like this, the tree pose. And feet flat on the floor. And we're feeling that sense of groundedness. Back to a tree and feeling our feet almost feel like they're rooted down to the earth. So again, it's from the center up to the skies, gathering in that divinity, that energy, that universe, holding it tight, then bursting forth into the world, and then as a tree, resting in it back up. So we're going to do that 3 times. Together. So let's do it 3 times together silently, and you just feel it going through your body. There's no need to use this brain at all, but you probably will anyway, because that's being human. But just allow the body to lead. So we're just going through these poses. forgot you can add a bow. Happy little accident. Yeah, sure. Last one, and on this one, take as long as you need. If you need to take a little longer in one of the poses, and I'll add the bow, which is after the beginning. Forgot that one. If you need to take a little longer, if one speaks to you, you can sit in this one a little longer. So we'll do our third one a little bit more slowly. This last bow is a bow to you, for going along in body or spirit with that exercise. So take your time if you're still going through the motions. There's no hurry at all. Love goes out to Barbara and Marcella, my spiritual direction teachers. Oh, I think of it though. I do that one. So one more kind of creative arts approach to this, and we're coming near to the end of our reflective time. A few more. And so this next one is the realm of story. So we're gonna take a moment just to be present to a story and see what a story has to tell us. Now, I want you to choose a story that you know well. So it can be a plot from a movie. It can be a fairy tale or children's story. Those are always full of some peculiar and important wisdom. It can be, of course, a religious text. But Bible stories are great for this, and it actually goes centuries back in the Ignatian tradition, looking at the Bible stories, as are stories from many traditions, of course. Or a book, or any sort of story, probably a fiction story. You can choose a true story if you'd like, if one really stirs up to you. But I'm thinking of a story, maybe in a favorite book or a movie. So a story that you know well, that's dear to your heart. And what we're going to do is just spend a moment with this story, well, a few moments really. And I invite you to sort of ask yourself what this story may be saying to you today. Maybe a reason why it popped into your head first. Maybe because it's your favorite story, or maybe it was a story you didn't expect to be the one that popped into your head. But I invite you to just sit with the story. What we're going to do in a moment is sit with the story. And I invite you to see if there are anything that it may be telling you. And again, this doesn't need to be firm answers. We're not looking to write a thesis statement on this. It's just any stirrings that this story is stirring up in you. Is there a character maybe that you particularly identify with when you think about this story, the moment? Or is there a scene that is with you? And if there is, I invite you to sit with that a little more, that one particular scene. You don't need to tell the whole story in your mind. You can, but if there's one moment or one feeling, I invite you to especially stay there and savor it. Let it resonate in you. Let it feel what there is. So go ahead. Have you thought of a story? I invite you to take a moment when you have, if a story comes to you, to just sit with that story and see what it may be telling to you today. So I'm going to give you about 2 minutes Again, if you're on the recording, you may want more time than this, so you may want to pause it. But give you a couple minutes just to sit with whatever that story is, and invite you to think, where are you? What is that story saying to you right now? So let's take a couple minutes to just sit with the story, tell it to ourselves again, and see what the story may be teaching us in this moment, on this day. I forgot to say, if you wanted to jot down any ideas, of course you're welcome to. Or even if you wanted to draw a scene, if you're feeling artistic from that story, of course, go where the spirit leads. So I know that's probably hardly enough time, but we will. Feel free to pause it if you want to spend a little more time with that story. It's something wonderful to kind of let the story rummage around in our heads and get a feel for it. And again, if we were together in the same room, we'd share what our story, we've been invited to share. And I'll share, I came up with, I was thinking The Hobbit, but I think it's The Lord of the Rings. We're reading at the moment, my family and I. And I thought of just walking that back road at the beginning of the story. The hobbits are, there's a bit of danger in the air, and the hobbits are walking in the back road. And what came up for me was just the feeling of, even though it's quite a tense story with a lot of suspense and drama, that feeling of just having the road beneath your feet, and just kind of the sense of familiarity. Well, there's two of us who are thinking of Lord of the Rings. That's great. Synchronicity. You may have brought it into my mind as well. I don't know. Maybe it was the resonance, but I don't know. Probably I was curious what your take on it was, because probably 10 of us could have been thinking of Lord of the Rings and had a different bit of wisdom from it, I'm sure. But for me, it was that sense of just kind of being on the road and taking the most of this day while events are uncertain. Of course, there's so much uncertainty in the world today. But just being grateful for those simple things, I think, was part of the message. And we don't need to boil the message down again into words. Sometimes the message is a feeling or a sense. That's not always something that's the sense. Sometimes the words don't do it justice. So I encourage you, if it doesn't go into words, to just sit with that feeling. Sometimes that's much more powerful than an answer you can put into words. So, at the end of our imaginative portion, we've got a couple more, and we're going to go into the practical now. And I know some of you may be watching this. I'm grateful to go to the practical after so much kind of reflection and the spiritual side of things. But given all of this, and we've been on this sort of journey together and done all these little exercises, maybe glean something from these little exercises. 2 practical questions to close our series of exercises, so our last 2 exercises. The first is more general, which is, what do you want to do more of? And this can be specific activities. Sometimes it comes up and you might have said, what makes you come alive? And you say, walking through the park, and you say, I don't do enough walking through the park, or I don't do enough, it could be very specific things. But it could also be more general to say, well, I want to be more forgiving of myself. Or I don't want to rush quite so much, whatever that is. And it doesn't have to be just one, just jot down maybe 2 or 3, or if there's more, that's great. What do you want to do more of? What has this time inspired you to maybe make a slight change, a slight adjustment? If it was a painting, you wouldn't be crossing everything out, because there's no point doing that. But we could if you want. I mean, I know Pizarro did. But what would be that little change you'd make in the painting? What sort of change of the way you are in the world would you like to make? What would you like to do more of? So again, if you need more time, just feel free to pause. I put letting things breathe, and what did I put? Oh, walking around more, doing more walks. Whatever that is, encourage you to keep it in mind. You can even, some people make a vision board of images of how they'd like, and if you put it up somewhere where you keep looking at it, and it's a reminder of how you want to be in the world, sometimes that'll make it, it'll start to seep into, and you'll find that you're doing that more. And it works for me. The last one is really a continuation of it. One concrete action. It's sometimes important to be concrete, and sometimes it can be something very small. You can say, well, I really need to call so-and-so. They've been on my mind as this worship, and I really want to talk to them. Or it can be, I really want to look up something that whatever it is. Blessings, Swank Sinatra. It's been pleasure, and it's wonderful spending this. Thank you to both Swank Sinatra and Jane for being our live community. But the community, I know, will stretch out over a week as people watch it. But thank you, lots of love. God bless. So the last one is, and for those of you on the recording, I'm just responding to the comments as they happen, because we formed a little live community as it happened, but we were also a community throughout time as people are watching this on Sunday or Monday, or who knows, a year from now. You are part of this community. And again, if you want to reach me, I'm at bobunitarian@gmail.com. So you can always send me a question or a comment, and I would be really happy to hear. The last one is that, again, that one concrete action. What's one thing you're going to do probably today? Maybe it's not today, but sooner the better, I'd say. Really want to do. So I invite you to write down that one concrete action. All right, doing a drawing tomorrow. I really like that. I don't doodle very much, but I think I'm going to try one tomorrow morning and see where it leads me. So whatever you always wear blessings on it. Wishing you serenity and courage and all those things. And remember, no mistakes, just happy accidents. We close our time here, and what I invite you to do to close our time, I'm going to do a couple of things to sort of close and honor this time. First of all, you might turn back to your gratitude list and just read it over quickly. Let's look at the things we're grateful for. It's good. They can't have too much gratitude, I find. It's never wasted. So let's look through your list again. So much in this world we're grateful for. So now we're going to do that body prayer again, which I invite you to do if you wish. You don't have to. But first I invite us to do the 3 bows, which again, I don't know where this tradition originates from. The three bows are, first of all, to one another, viewer and myself. We're bowing to each other. In respect and admiration and love. Good to be with you. Now we'll bow to the tradition, to our teachers, to the people we love, to our family and friends, to those we know. This is a bow to, it says our teachers, but by our teachers we mean our children can be our teachers. The bird outside can be our teacher. So we bow to all of the teachers, all our loved ones who are teaching us so much. And thirdly, the bow is to the universe. I say to God, to the divine, to the energy, bowing to the all. Let's bow together. Now we'll do the motions once more just to ground ourselves. I'm going to move this chair. Physical things make a difference. And invite us to simply feel the energy as we commune with the all. As we commune with our spirits. Bow down. And then stretch up to the heavens. Gather in all the beauty and the goodness and bring it to our heart center. Cradle it there. Then we boldly go forth into the world, beaming out that energy of love and joy into the world. And we come to rest. A tree pose, strong where we are. Return again to the heart center. Friends, it has been a pleasure spending this time with you. Thank you for your curiosity and courage in going to this work. I hope it was an hour well spent. I'm very grateful for you. Let us be grateful for one another and for this beautiful world. So remember that you are a precious one. Who you are is beautiful and wonderful and good. You have a lot to offer this world, simply being who you are. Francis de Sales says, be who you are and be that well. And as Bob Ross says, believe that you can do it, because you can. Blessings, friends. I will see you soon, I hope. Lots of love to you all. All my best. God bless. See you.